All right, so earlier I'd mentioned, remember we talked about the elk and venison of not having any fat, and that it's a very lean, high protein meat. And when you're serving this, you want to have everything you're serving with it ready to go afterwards, because after this cooks, it starts to dry out. So you want to make sure that it's the last thing you're serving, or it's the last thing you cook when you get ready to eat it. And today what we're going to do is we've made some wild rice, which is inside, and then what we're going to have is some asparagus wrapped with prosciutto, and then some grilled pears. And when you grill fruit, pears, apples, peaches, these are all great things to put on the barbecue. And what I like to do is the same seasoning that I use on the meat, whether it's venison, chicken, pork chops, whatever, is what I also put on the fruit to grill it. And they just go right on the grill, and you're just going to set them, initially face down, let them get some nice grill marks on them, and then we'll flip them over, and they'll just be good eating when we're done. And on the asparagus, I pre-blanched these. So we boiled up some water. We put them in there for about a minute to 2 minutes, and that's just enough to keep that nice green texture and get them soft. And then they'll actually finish cooking, and we'll get some char marks on that prosciutto, which is an Italian cured ham, and it's just going to give it a nice little salty flavor to complement that. And I had mentioned seasoning everything with the same, and I got to give a plug to Alpine. Alpine is a spice mix that's made here in Montana, and it goes on everything, like they say. But I really like it with the wild game. It's not super spicy or anything. It's just a nice mellow blend of flavors that add to the meat. And so we're going to put these on here, and this is the back strap. This is the prime rib of the elk. And so it's the center cut that runs right down along the shoulder, or the spine along the top of the back. And they're going to cook actually pretty quick. So we'll set those in here and get those going. So last fall, I get my wife up bright and early before light, because my motto is you got to be on the top of the mountain before the sun comes up. Well, unfortunately, my wife doesn't agree with that. She's like, no, we'll get up and go when I'm ready. So I'm fuming and waiting, and the sun's coming up, and we're leaving our house and going up to go hunting up out of Seawee Lake area. You don't get any more description other than that. And so as we drive up there, I get parked, and we're going up the trailhead, and I'm like, come on, honey, we got to get to the top, those elk are going to be up there in the timber bedding down. And I'm going up the hill, and my wife looks over and she says, well, what's wrong with those right down there? They're only 100 yards from where you parked the truck. So I can't argue with logic like that. And I'm a guy who takes any elk that gives me that opportunity. And so this cow met her fate on that fateful day, and we loaded it up, and we're actually back home by 1 o'clock that afternoon, which is extremely rare for me. Hunting just usually doesn't happen that way. But at my age, I'm going to take every opportunity that I can too. So usually they don't work that well. I don't know if you can see this yet, but everything's getting a nice grill on them. Try not to hog them. Okay. So we're just not going to turn these quite yet, but we're just going to turn them to a little angle so we'll get a nice char mark on the meat. You can kind of tell I'm turning them a little bit early. So one of the things when you're barbecuing is when you put that meat on there, you know it's time to turn it when you go to lift it up and it doesn't stick to that grill, because those what happens is that meat is searing, it's tightening up that muscle, and then it'll loosen it up with the juices or fats that are in it. And then that's when you know you want to turn it. So, but on this, we're just getting some nice marks. They're thin enough where they're going to cook. When I cook venison, I like to cook it right to about medium rare, which is right around 135, 140, no more than 145, because just like any other meat, when you pull it off of that grill, it keeps cooking. And so you want to let it rest for 5 to 10 minutes. And when I do that, we'll have the meat sitting there, and then we'll finish off our reduction sauce that we've been cooking down and down. And it's gone from just basically water and berries now to a nice syrupy barbecue sauce that we'll put on there that you should enjoy. And just like that, we're getting everything nice. So now all we're doing is waiting on the meat. And that's going to be done here. So, another quick hunting story. I was up on St. Paul Island in the Bering Sea in Alaska, and I was cooking for a lodge up there called Island X Extreme, and it's a duck hunting lodge. They go up there for these king eiders and these sea ducks. And it is the most remote spot you'll ever see in your life. And there's about 400 Inuit Indians that live there year-round. And so one of the natives had killed a seal, and he gave me the seal meat. And I was so excited because I had never, ever even thought about cooking seal. So I'm looking at this meat, and it was just a beautiful red meat, and it's kind of like bear meat or elk texture. And so I'm wondering, gosh, how am I going to cook this? Because the elders, the tribal elders who are like the city council, the mayor, they are coming to dinner with us. And so I thought, okay, well, I'm going to do this Spanish braise like Spanish ribs. So I pulled out the canned tomatoes and made up this tomato sauce with garlic and everything, and served this. And the elders were sitting there, and the chief elder, he cuts in and he takes a bite of seal meat, and he looks at me and he goes, "Chef Joe, this is not how we cook seal." And I'm just turning red. I'm like, oh my God, I've ruined the meal. I'm saying, well, I'm sorry, I've never cooked seal before. I don't know how you cook it. And he looks and he goes, "We boil the doo-doo out of it and then fry it in bacon grease." And I said, okay. And he takes another bite and he goes, "But this is very good." He says, "But as you can see with our island, we do not have very many tomato plants." And so I'm like, oh my God. And then he looks at all the other elders and he says, "I think it is a go for our community greenhouses." So I added progress to the Inuit Indians, and it was a great experience. But one of the most fun and challenging things I ever did get to cook as far as wild game goes was that seal. And it was pretty good. I was happy with it. So other than that, we are just right there. We're going to give our pears just another second. We'll get our meat going here. And then, you know what, we're going to go inside and we're going to plate this up and see how everybody likes it. If you had smell-o-vision right now, you would be drooling, because I am. And it's like, brings back fond memories of this raccoon that keeps twisting around my head. Because we were in the Hills Canyon, Snake River, and I shot this raccoon. And I was skinning it out, and my Uncle Bill goes, "Well, what are you going to do with the rest of that?" And I said, "Well, I really hadn't thought about it." And he says, "If you kill it, you eat it." And so I said, okay. Well, it was my turn to cook, and mind you, I'm 15 years old. So I thought, how am I going to cook this raccoon up? Well, I was doing spaghetti that night, so I cubed him all up and I put him in the spaghetti sauce, and we had raccoon spaghetti, which like I said earlier, wasn't very good. I mean, it was good, but raccoon is a little bit greasy. So I've learned better ways to harvest and cook them since then. All right, so we've pulled everything off of our grill. Our elk roast, our elk steaks are resting. And the final product of our reduction sauce, so it started out just waters and berries, and we reduced that down, and then we added some red wine to it and cooked it down, and then the chicken stock, and now we have this beautiful huckleberry barbecue sauce. And then that's what we can drizzle on the plates, and then we have some whole wheat sourdough bread that we made with the Dutch oven earlier. And then when you plate, like I said, the reward is not just killing the animal. The reward is I cut and wrap everything myself. I make all my own sausages and that, and sharing that with my friends and family. So to me, especially as a chef, it's just as important to present things on the plate as majestic and as beautiful as they were out there in the wilderness. So this is what we have. It's the barbecued elk backstrap with a huckleberry reduction sauce. We've done a wild rice, our asparagus wrapped with the Italian prosciutto, a gorgonzola salad with a pear vinaigrette, and then some grilled pears. And so, bon appetit.